In 1979, millions of Iranians took to the streets to overthrow a hereditary monarchy. Today, the Islamic Republic they built to replace it has outlasted the Shah's regime. But that survival came to a violent halt in March 2026. A coordinated U.S. and Israeli military campaign struck deep inside Iran, targeting the regime's leadership and industrial heartland. Satellite imagery of Karg Island captures the scale of the damage. Plumes of smoke rise from destroyed oil export hubs. This campaign also claimed the life of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. Faced with an existential vacuum, the clerical establishment turned to the very mechanism they once deposed. They installed the late leader's son, Mojtaba Khamenei, as the new supreme leader. The 1979 revolution began with a vow to end dynastic rule forever. By placing Mojtaba on his father's throne, the regime has abandoned its own founding principle in a desperate bid for survival. The collapse of the system followed a predictable path. Phase 1 was revolutionary fervor. Under Ruhollah Khomeini, the state was powered by a novel political invention, direct clerical rule backed by mass ideological belief. But revolutions are exhausting. Over the decades, the country entered Phase 2, bureaucratic cynicism. The fiery religious ideology hollowed out, becoming a mandatory public performance rather than a true belief system. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps transformed into a multi-billion-dollar corporate cartel, systematically absorbing the state's most lucrative sectors from the inside. This diagram traces Iran's national wealth. Billions flowed into two expanding silos, the IRGC and the bonyats, tax-exempt monopolies. The clerical class became highly paid managers, using religious ideology to shield their financial control. When a state loses true believers, it has to rely on bank accounts to purchase loyalty. That strategy holds together only as long as the money lasts. By early 2026, the Islamic Republic entered its third and final stage, naked coercion. The regime's financial reserves were exhausted, stripping away their ability to buy compliance. This chart illustrates the breaking point. The inflation rate surged past 50%, while the rial crashed to 1.6 million per dollar. This hyperinflation taxed the population into poverty, replacing middle-class stability with financial desperation. That ruin poured onto the streets. In January 2026, Iranians mobilized in massive numbers, driven by lost livelihoods and zero political representation. The state responded by executing a pre-planned, systematic mass killing of civilians. They authorized extreme, lethal force to prevent the regime from completely collapsing under the weight of the crowds. The January massacre permanently severed the social contract. With its founding ideology dead and its economy in ruins, the state now survives solely by looking down the barrel of a gun. Which brings us back to the aftermath of the 2026 war. Mojtaba Khamenei sits on his father's throne, but his role is largely symbolic. He lacks the religious credentials and the independent authority of his predecessors. The true architects of the new regime are an iron triangle of IRGC hardliners. Commanders like Ahmad Vahidi now dictate national policy, effectively controlling the new supreme leader from the shadows. Iran has mutated into a criminal oligarchic military state. It maintains the tattered robes of the clerics only to project an illusion of external legitimacy. There is an old Sufi philosophical concept. When the outward form no longer reflects the inner truth, it must fall away. The U.S. and Israeli strikes accelerated a collapse that was already underway, exposing a rotting emptiness where the state's legitimacy used to be. The IRGC might buy a few more months with bullets and fear. But the ideological empire of the Ayatollahs has already fallen, leaving a heavily armed, volatile vacuum in the heart of the Middle East.